aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I've got special guest Steve Caton on the show today. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So love getting into state right when we get started. I know we're going to have an amazing discussion today because I was actually just recording a podcast today. When there's two positive forces of energy that bounce off each other, it just continues to build. And that's going to be the discussion today. So let's go ahead and we're going to get 3 power breaths in. I define that breathing in through the belly, up through the chest. We'll raise our hands above our head, and then we'll get a power movement. So let's go ahead and breathe in and out. Good. Another breath in and out. And final breath in and out. All right. Now I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're going to yell boom, pound our chest at the top of our lungs in 3, 2, 1, and boom.
Boom.
There you go. Love
Awesome.
it. Love it. Love it, Steve.
Great,
Thank
man.
you so much. Thank you so
bet.
much for playing along and getting that energy up. So I am all about morning habits, rituals, routines. I feel like they are the foundation for success. So Steve, what are a couple things that you do on a daily basis that really drives you down that path towards success?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm a big believer in the morning routine as well. I, discovered years ago that starting my day with some quiet time. I'm a man of faith, so just go ahead and share that with you. So starting my day with some quiet time in prayer and just reading scripture, I've been doing that for years. And that's always been a really effective way to center myself. But just recently, as I've moved into this journey of being an entrepreneur, I felt like I wanted to add some more to that. So my morning routine has had quiet time, devotional, and then my workout. And if you look at my calendar, you'll see that. But what I added to it was this kind of mental workout that I do now. And actually, the idea came from this book, Executive Toughness, from Jason Selk, who's a sports psychologist, actually. But he wrote a book that's really geared at executives, and this mental workout that he does. And I've got it on my phone. I've added to it. And it's basically, it starts with what we just did, Jeff, which is the breathing. So you start with the breathing, getting centered on your breath and just kind of relaxing. And then you do review an identity statement. And so there's an identity statement that I've written down that basically kind of defines who I want to be as a person. And so I review that. I also have a vision script that I've written that basically is kind of looking out probably about 10 years from now, and it articulates what I want to be true about my life, with my kids, with my wife, with my career, with my health. And I review that. It's a script that probably could be read in about 30 seconds, so it's not long. And then I come back, review the identity statement again, finish with breathing, and then I'm done. And so all together, that takes, I don't know, a couple minutes to do. But I've added that to that quiet time and to the workout. And it just has been so helpful in terms of getting my brain in the right frame of mind before I start my day.
I love that. And I love obviously the breathing part since we did that. And it's such an automatic thing, but so many times we don't take time to really focus on our breath and clear our mind. And I love the identity statement. It sounds like that would be a tremendous way to ground yourself into who you are going into your day, instead of waking up and just letting the day happen, right? You're grounding yourself in, here's my identity, saying it a couple times, following it up with breaths, and then you follow that throughout your day.
Yeah, it's so helpful, Jeff, because I tell you what, my habit that I had to break was oftentimes I'd wake up in the morning, go make the coffee, and then I would sit down, and the first thing I would do is open the phone and see the news feed, right? And then you just
Yes.
go into the doom scroll on the news feed, and it just, oh man, that can just derail your entire day because you start it with negativity instead of starting it with positivity. And I just said, I got to quit that. And so this workout helps me start the day with the right things and get my mind in the right space, positive frame of mind, solution oriented frame of mind, instead of going down the rat hole of all the world's problems.
Yeah, I love that, and kudos to you, Steve, for making that switch and having an awareness and understanding that, hey, when I open up and get that news feed, it is taking me down that negative rabbit hole. And I always tell people, you have a choice, right? You can go down the positive or the negative path. And if you're filling it with social media or news, they know negativity grabs us, right? We have that negativity principle inside that amplifies anything negative 8 to 9, 10 times more than positive. It's going to grip you and it's going to keep you in that state all day long. So I love that identity piece. So Steve, you've obviously jumped into entrepreneurship relatively, recently,
Yeah.
and I was extremely interested in this concept of fractional sales. So could you tell me a little bit about your company as well as this concept of fractional sales? Because I think there's a lot of solopreneurs, business owners starting out that would love to have somebody in sales on their team, but sometimes don't feel like they have the financial means to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that. And I'll start with the kind of elevator statement, and then I'll give a little bit of background to explain it. So Altezza is a company that basically helps emerging growth companies accelerate sales and growth by placing experienced, seasoned sales professionals into those business on a fractional basis instead of a full-time basis, which allows the entrepreneur who often got the company to where it is today, it allows them to shift from working in the business to working on the business. And so that's what we're looking to do. We want to come alongside those business owners and entrepreneurs and help them kind of get out of the daily kind of grind of the tyranny of the urgent and start focusing on the things that are going to help them scale the business. And sales is often one of the things that's really got them kind of bound up, if you will. They love it sometimes, sometimes they don't. But it's time consuming. And so if we can take that off their plate and put somebody experienced in there, that can free them up and really accelerate the revenue growth. So that's the essence of the company and what we do. The background of it, Jeff, for me is I've been in sales for 35 years. Okay. I literally came out of college and went into sales. First 12 years I was in real estate, started a real estate company with a good friend of mine up in North Georgia, did that. And then when I started having a family, I decided the kind of 24/7 nature of real estate wasn't really conducive to being available for my family. So I transitioned out of that. I went to Southern California, late 90s, and got involved in the kind of first .com boom, which was really exciting, a lot of fun. I got to experience the whole, hey, I'm a millionaire on paper, and then it all went away and vaporized.
Right.
So, but what happened as I learned more about myself, here's what I learned, and that is that I love emerging growth companies. Not so much I'm not the guy that's maintenance mode guy, right? So you put me in a big corporate setting, and I get a little anxious, right, and a little bit bored. Honestly, is probably the word I'd use to describe it. I love high energy, highly innovative, highly agile organizations, and that tends to be the companies that are kind of coming out of early stage growth and really starting to kind of see that hockey stick. Well, here's the tension that I've seen happen in those companies over and over and over again. When they're ready to get serious about sales, they usually wrestle with one of two choices. One is, hey, let's bring in that seasoned, experienced salesperson who, we know that there's a pretty high probability of success. They might even bring a book of business with them, and that's a really good choice. However, those people don't come cheap. They're experienced, they're seasoned, and that comes with a price. And so it's not typically very affordable to bring those people on board. And in a tech setting where I worked a lot of times you'd have to give up equity as well to get those people. So that was kind of choice number one. Choice number two was, okay, let's bring on somebody that's less seasoned, more affordable, maybe even someone that we know, a friend, a known entity. Let's bring them in and let's just help them learn on the job and hope for the best. So both of those scenarios, both of those choices, they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, right, Jeff? So,
Right.
and both of them have different risks associated with them, but they bring risk to the table. One is a financial risk. If that seasoned executive doesn't work out, that can really set you back significantly. If the less seasoned person doesn't work out, or as they're learning on the job, a lot of times your brand actually experiences some risk as they're learning and adapting. And and again, sometimes it doesn't work out. So there's risk on both sides of those. And so I thought, hey, what if we could create a third option that brings that seasoned salesperson into the mix for those companies, but at a much more affordable level, because they're not working for you full time. They're coming in and they're working, somewhere between 20 to 40 hours a month, but they're good, they're high capacity people. And in that period of time that they're doing that work, they can accomplish way more than the less seasoned, salesperson can. And they can also help you develop some good rhythms and systems and processes along the way because they've got that experience. So that's the third option that Altezza is trying to bring to the table, is seasoned sales expertise that can be deployed into these emerging growth businesses to kind of get them from here to here, but with a lot less risk, because you're not paying them as a full-time employee. And if it doesn't work, you just stop and move on to something else. So that's the essence of it, Jeff.
I love it. And I loved how you laid out those two options, because I'm sure a lot of people resonated with, if they're in that stage, yes, those are the options I'm considering. And they didn't know that there was a third option available. So I'm assuming there was a pain point you saw out there in the market, right? Where there was just those two options. And in your sales experience, hey, why don't we create this third one? Tell me a little bit about, that process and the ups and downs related to that process in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so the tension that I have again been a part of, as I've done this, as I've kind of been in the sales role myself, and I've been that seasoned executive that came in and got hired, and so I've experienced there's the ramping up, and typically you look at like a 6-month kind of ramp up time to get things rolling in sales, but you bring those people in, and sometimes there's a cultural mismatch with that person and the other people on the team. And so you got to navigate through that. Sometimes the results don't come as soon as you want. And so you got leadership of the company really getting nervous about ROI. And you've got the salesperson who's getting a little nervous about feeling the pressure of that. And maybe putting a little bit more pressure on the sales conversation than they need to, because as you know, Jeff, our intent comes out in our conversation, whether we know it or not. And sometimes if we feel that pressure as a salesperson to perform, that intent can come across to the prospect as, is uncomfortable. So seeing that play out a lot. And then with the less experienced, salespeople, literally just seeing them, some of them do really well, but see a lot of them just kind of struggle with, hey, what's it's the disciplines, right? We've talked about this, Jeff, is there's a lot of discipline and process that is behind sales success. I think in all the years I've led sales teams, the most successful people I've seen aren't necessarily the ones that have these amazing sales skills. It's more about the people who have discipline and process, and they're predictable and persistent. Well, that typically is something that gets developed through the scar tissue, right? It's our experience and the failures and the lost opportunities that kind of help us develop that. And you just don't see that in the less seasoned sales pros. So those are the kind of results that I saw playing out over and over again. I'm thinking, man, there's got to be a solution to this. Now, I have to say that even though fractional executives and fractional employees have been a thing in other spaces like fractional CFOs, fractional chief marketing officers, fractional assistants, you haven't seen it in sales much. And so it's not as proven there. And so that was probably the thing that was kind of holding me back a little bit to say, okay, well, is there a reason no one's doing this? And then I just decided, Jeff, you know what, the heck with being scared. We're going to dive in with both feet and make this thing happen.
Love it. Love that attitude. And one of the things I wanted to call out and ask you about a little bit further is in the sales operating process and successful sales teams, you said discipline and process. Are there 1, 2, 3 things that are common across organizations that you've seen that are essential to having that discipline and process and being successful?
Yeah, for sure, Jeff. There's a phrase I use called sales orchestration,
Okay.
which is not my phrase. It's out there, but the way that I define that, it's really a combination. It's a big strategy that sits over the top of everything that you might refer to as revenue operations. And so you've got marketing and lead generation, and then you've got sales. And those two things have to work really well together. So there's a synergy and a synchronicity that needs to happen between marketing and lead generation and sales. And oftentimes those two operate in silos. And so the first part of it is making sure that those things are really lined up, because you've got marketing out there creating leads, right? And putting out content and ads and whatnot that are bringing leads in. And then you got the salespeople working those leads. Well, as they work the leads, they're going to learn a lot about the lead generation that can help inform the marketing. So we can tighten up persona development and messaging if we're listening to what the salespeople are what kind of conversations they're having and where the obstacles are. So there's that piece of it. And then within the sales piece of it, you've got a lot of things that have to happen from the time you qualify and discover in a more complex sales setting that's not more the B2B kind of business to business setting. There's typically a longer sales cycle that requires some nurturing and education and follow-up. So that discipline piece on the sales side comes in having a defined process with steps that you're moving people through. And then marketing is supporting that with enablement materials and content and things that help, us build trust in those prospects. And then as salespeople, we just have to be super efficient at following up and super, persistent, like I said before, and having that disciplined process and a system to stay in touch with people and move them through the process is really important. And it's not rocket science, Jeff. And it's kind of like, I know a lot of people are listening, probably going, yeah, duh, I know that. But it's in the execution, right? The execution is that's where it all lives and dies. And so many times, what we see is that salespeople just don't have the discipline to follow up, or they will do something like on a day when they're supposed to be making cold calls, for instance, they may sit down at the desk, and because of fear, because none of us like calling, like being rejected. Right. They might hit the snooze button on the calls and go, let me go check my email instead. And then the next thing you know, 2 hours are gone checking email, and they haven't gotten into their calls, and then they just skip it for the day. So there's process, there's discipline, there's synchronicity between sales and marketing. All of that really makes up what I refer to as the sales orchestration process.
Yeah, that was valuable information. And one of the last pieces, Steve, that you mentioned was kind of knowledge versus execution. Everybody has the knowledge that the follow-up needs to happen and that nurturing process needs to happen. But what is missing is the execution piece. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen technology can be a great tool to leverage, to have reminders, to follow up, or just check in with somebody 2 months down the road. And that makes a huge difference in somebody's world when you do that, because you're not then just a name and let's say a prospect. You continue to build that relationship.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And as you build relationship, you're building trust, so you're not just staying in front of people, which is super important, but you're also building trust as someone who's adding value to that person in some way, shape, or form. So there's a rhythm to it where, and you see this in numerous kind of books that are out there, but as you're resourcing people in the sales process, it needs to be maybe like a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio of just resourcing versus asking for something. Resource, then call to action. And again, to your point, you got to have a system that helps you do that, and software can play a huge role in that.
It absolutely can. Awesome, Steve. I appreciate the conversation. I know there's something you want to offer up to the audience, and then let people know where they can find you and your solution.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do oftentimes when we're engaging with a client on the front end of our process is an assessment. And so we do basically a 3D assessment of that whole sales operating engine. And we look at that. We look at everything from brand identity, brand experience, buyer journey, key messaging, to sales process, sales strategy, and execution. So we kind of take a dive into all of that. and give the client a sense of where they are today and what are the things that need to be shored up in order to build a sales operating system that will scale. And so that's something that we do, and we charge anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 for that, depending on the depth and the scope of it. But that's something that I would love to offer to the audience, complimentary. If somebody reaches out to me as a result of this show, would love to be able to do that just as a gift.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So if you reach out to Steve, mention you heard it on Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs, and that session would be complimentary. Steve, where can people find you?
So our website is altezzasolutions.com, and Altezza is spelled Altezza. And by the way, Altezza is an Italian word that means altitude. I live in Colorado, so altitude is a big part of my reality here. Plus, I'm trying to convey that, gaining of altitude for the businesses that we serve. So altezzasolutions.com is our web site. And then I'm on LinkedIn. That's my kind of one and only social media outlet. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Steve Caton. Just look it up and you'll find me there. I don't have a LinkedIn page yet for Altezza. So just connect with me personally, and would love to do that.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jeff. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have an amazing rest of your day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.